Welcome back. Well, Indonesia is filled with rich culture and heritage, but in these modern times, those traditions are usually drowned out. But one person that's eager to bring it all back is Palmer Keen. Palmer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So you have this musical project. It's called Archipelago.
That's
Can
right.
you tell us a little bit more about it?
So I started traveling around Indonesia about 4 years ago, and I was always looking for traditional music, and I was making recordings and video and doing research. And then I wanted to find a way to share this documentation with the world. And so I made a website, Our Archipelago, where I share everything for free. So I share my recordings and videos, and I write about this music.
Right. And so what kind of ethnic music is it? I mean, because Indonesia is rich with a lot of ethnic music, and a lot of people kind of know about it, but is your aim to bring maybe lesser known, or what's this?
Yeah, I'm interested in those that are rare or there's not a lot of information. For example, gamelan is quite well known. Everybody knows about it. But there are hundreds of other different kinds of music that really nobody knows about, even within Indonesia, even within these communities, people don't know about it. So my aim is to get that information out there.
Okay, and tell us a bit about, I guess, one of your unique findings of these rare kind of musical instruments. Is it musical instruments, or is it just performances? Or
I love musical instruments, but
Okay.
all music. So not any vocal music I'm really interested in too, but I'm really a big fan of weird instruments.
Okay.
So for example, I was in West Sumatra a few months ago, and there's a community there that plays on megaliths, giant stones. And they use these stones to replicate the gong music there called talampong. So they're playing stones, but the music that they're playing is gong music.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I read about this megalith. Approximately around 700 years ago, if I'm not wrong. It came to a man in a dream to find these rocks and just put them in this place. I mean, it's very mystical. Do you think there's like a link between mysticism and music in Indonesia?
It's really fascinating because, at least in that case, those stones were created by a society that is no longer there. But they were kept by the modern Minangkabau society until this day. And they have a lot of really, very mystical beliefs about them. There's a lot of power within these instruments. And that's something you find all around Indonesia, is that musical instruments are not just tools to make music, but they're really spiritual and mystical objects that you have to show a lot of respect to.
Right, and I read also on your website that there's a lot of performances or maybe musical gatherings where people get into trances while they perform the music. Is there any other experience that you want to share?
So that's something I find a lot in West Java, in Sundanese music. So for example, in Bandung, there's a style of music called reak.
Okay.
And what I really like about that is that the people who are going into trance, who are dancing and playing the music, it's all young people. Usually when you find traditional music all around Indonesia, it's often the older generation. But here in Bandung, actually, you can find young people playing this music, and they treat it almost like punk music.
Okay.
And so the feeling in the air is half trance ritual and half punk rock show.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the people that are watching, are they maybe tourists or local community?
And that's the thing, is that there's no tourists. It hasn't been promoted in any way. So the people who are watching is purely just the village in which it's being played.
Right, and this kind of, I guess, unique ethnic music, is it for these communities to kind of have as like for gatherings or?
Right. So most traditional music in Indonesia these days is played for functions. So for weddings, or for sunatan, or for funerals, or for birthday parties, or there's often rituals. For example, harvest rituals, where every year they will have the harvest and they'll play the music. So it's usually for certain occasions.
Right. And as you said before, these are kind of more rare musical instruments or performances. How do you find out about it?
I do a lot of research, a lot of Googling, and actually there's a decent amount of information online, but none of it is ever in English.
Okay.
And so luckily I can speak Indonesian, and I do a lot of research on the Indonesian internet and find what I can. But if I can't find something, I'll just go into the field, I'll go to the place and just ask around.
Oh, wow.
And often just by asking the local people, they can send me in the right direction.
Okay, that's great. Are you funded by anyone anyway?
Everything I do is out of my own pocket, from the plane tickets to commissioning performances to hosting the website and the sounds. It's everything I do myself.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And has the government ever approached you, or maybe you've kind of asked the government to help you out?
I've asked the government to help me out as far as going to the culture department in certain provinces and seeing what information they can give me, but they've never come to me to provide any assistance.
Okay. Do you think the government should help you? Because I mean, it's kind of funny in a way, I guess, that we would need like a foreigner
Right.
to document Indonesian ethnic music on a website to Indonesians instead
Right.
of the government doing it. Do you think the government should be more responsible?
I don't think it's necessarily the government who should be responsible, but Indonesians themselves should take pride in their music and take the initiative, just like I have, to go out and learn themselves.
Okay.
There's no reason that it's only a foreigner who can do this job. I simply have the outside perspective to see things that are interesting that maybe locals take for granted. But ideally, it wouldn't be the government who's making this happen, but the locals themselves.
Right. So, how about from the local communities themselves? Do you think they should open up more to the rest of Indonesia about their kind of weird or unique musical performances?
I think the important thing is that this music, in order to survive, in order to be sustained, has to be relevant to the local communities. So you find this problem where you have only old people playing this music and there's no continuing generation.
Okay.
So I think more important than promoting it to outside of the community is making sure that it's still strong within their community by having young people find a way to care about this music.
All right. How do you think the young people of Indonesia can keep this going?
I think that the key is to find a way to make this music relevant to young people, because a lot of this music is tied to ways of life that just aren't relevant to modern teenagers, modern young people. So you have to find a way to modify it, or at least put it in a context that young people will understand.
Okay.
So, for example, in Bandung, you have this music called kerending, and this is the instrument that was almost extinct. Nobody played it. And then a band called Kerending Attack mixed this kerending music with metal music.
Wow.
And suddenly you have all these metal heads, these young kids in Bandung who are fascinated with this music, and now you have thousands of people playing it.
Right.
And because they were able to make it relevant to the young generation.
Okay, so I guess that's the way to promote it more. And so what about your future plans? I mean, how many provinces have you been to so far?
I've been to around 16 provinces.
Okay.
I don't think I can stop until I've been everywhere.
Wow.
Most of East Indonesia is still an empty place for me, so I haven't been to Maluku.
Okay.
I haven't been to Papua. There's a lot of places that I haven't gone to yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you put a number on the number of ethnic music or performances that you've documented so far?
At least almost 100.
100.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many more do you think you can get out of Indonesia?
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, I think I could travel around Indonesia for the rest of my life and never run out of things to hear. That's what I love about this country.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
How about any plans for a documentary? I mean, you're just doing this on YouTube, Blogspot. I mean,
Yeah, so most of this is on the internet. I would love to explore other avenues, maybe put out some records, maybe make a TV show.
some vinyls maybe?
Yeah, right. Something to get it out there in different mediums.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Palmer, thank you so much, and thanks so much for your work for exposing Indonesian music.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Thanks. Okay, and coming up next, we've got the latest updates from the world of sports. Stay with us on World Hour.